So I don't normally do these types of charts because I find it personally, I find it a little ghoulish, in a tragedy porn sort of way. The reason I'm doing this chart is because the call came in, or I'm sorry, the event occurred very close to the time the call was made. And the time of a 911 call is always going to give us the most accurate information in terms of finding things in a chart. So this is a little bit different than a horary because this is an actual event chart. But I briefly worked at 911, which is an interesting experience. In any event, one of the things that I had the opportunity to do was note the actual time 911 calls came in so I could run charts on them, when things got slow. And I could also have corroboration, usually, about what actually happened and where a person was found and that sort of stuff. So I've had some very interesting experiences using the time of a 911 call to identify the outcome of situations or locate people. Not that they used it. So this is all personal stuff, right? Because nobody wants to deal with that hoodoo voodoo sort of thing. In any event, the explosion in Nashville on Christmas morning today, here in the U.S., occurred around 6:30 this morning, and apparently the police officer was already there on scene for calls about a shooting or the sounds of shots being fired, and saw the RV, looked suspicious, and decided to make a call or radio in for the bomb squad to come out and check out this RV, which was parked in the middle of the street, on Christmas morning downtown. And it hadn't gotten a few blocks away before the RV, the recreational vehicle, exploded, right? And took out a bunch of businesses with it and injured a couple of people. So the time between he made the call to the bomb squad and the time the recreational vehicle exploded or was detonated were very, very close together by minutes. So I'm doing this chart because that is actually close to the time of the official call that there was a problem, and that should yield some interesting information. Also, I'm putting this on video. I originally put this on the blog earlier today, but I'm going to read it to you and show you here on the video. And I'm also doing additional stuff on video with this chart because Nashville Police Department has also put out the time based on camera surveillance that the recreational vehicle appeared on the street in that location. And that was put out on Twitter. So I thought that would make an interesting chart as well. So as an exercise and for something to do, I'm going to run these charts and see if we can solve the mystery of what happened and who did it. And again, this is not typically what I do because I find it incredibly ghoulish and distasteful to do post-trauma or tragedy event charts because, okay, so the volcano exploded, and doing the chart for when the volcano exploded is going to tell you what exactly and how is this going to prevent it from happening again. It's not my cup of tea, but this should be interesting because, like I said, we've got actual times, very specific times that should yield some interesting results with the charts. So let's get to it. Today's video is about the explosion in Nashville, Tennessee on Christmas morning, this morning here in the United States, December 25th, 2020. Okay, so we're about to look at the blog entry. I'm going to read it to you so you can kind of follow along if you want. And then we're going to look at the chart for the new information that we have. So the caveat right now, I just want you guys to know, is that this is not, this is literally just an exercise in speculation. It's pure speculation. So we're just going to kind of run with it and see how much of this is accurate to the way we've interpreted the chart, and if astrology can give us that information, and how much we've missed and where it's coming up different when we finally get this information later. All right, so on to the blog. Okay, so this chart was done first thing this morning after I heard about the explosion. And my first instinct was, literally was that these are homegrown domestic terrorists, and they were using the December 25th or Christmas Day holiday as an excuse to blow something up, and also as some type of point of reference to the war on Christmas. All right, so the explosion, the chart is set for the explosion in downtown Nashville, Tennessee at 6:30 a.m. when it was reported that the explosion occurred. This is the chart. You're going to see 27 Sag rising. Now, mind you, this chart could be a couple minutes earlier because the call went in a couple of minutes before the explosion occurred. But they're so close in time that this is as close to the actual 911 or bomb squad call, radio call, that we can get with any accuracy. The moon is in Taurus in the 4th house. We've got the sun rising on the chart at 4 Capricorn. And the Pluto is in the 1st. There's a lot going on. Anyway, so you can see the chart. All right. Now, I am not much in favor of post-event charts to determine information before an incident, who, why, how. But the detonation occurred a scant minute or a couple of minutes after the law enforcement officer called in for the bomb squad, and that makes it close enough to be the assumed time for a 911 call. And here's what I want you guys to always remember. The time of 911 calls always give you accurate charts for the issue. Always. If the 1st house is considered the actor in a chart, or the person acting to make something happen, that means that Jupiter and Aquarius ruling this chart rules the terrorists. When it's also conjunct Saturn, it's most likely an antisocial or self-proclaimed rebel group, Aquarius, with arch conservative ideology, Jupiter with Saturn. And honestly, crackpot conspiracy theory thinking, like the parlor, the racist hotbed parlor, inhabiting idiots, Aquarius, these Aquarius planets, Jupiter and Saturn, being in the decan into a lot of Aquarius. The disposition of these Aquarius planets is, of these Aquarius planets is Uranus in Taurus, Uranus in the Taurus decan and the Cancer dwad of its sign, suggesting homogeny or folks that look like the intended targets. And considering this is the South, right, and it's Nashville, trigger warning, homegrown white folks is who's largely the suspect here, not foreigners. With the moon passing the conjunction to Uranus and the separating trine, coming from a separating trine to Sun, Mercury, and the part of fortune in Capricorn, also in the 1st, this is suggested to be deliberate, well-planned, and most likely using higher technology than throwing a dynamite stick. Well, there's no surprise there, right? Remote activation with a drone is a real possibility here, although I don't know how that would work. Maybe you would know better. Now, here's a question for you. Would an assassin be shown by the 12th house, the house behind, or the house behind the house ruling the actor of the event, or would an assassin be shown by the 6th house, the house behind the house ruling the target of the assassin, or another house? Personally, I would go with the 6th, and that puts the North Node in the 6th house ruling the assassin / terrorist, again, groups and ideologies because of the Aquarius connection, and Mercury in 1st in Capricorn, again, homogeny, not difference in appearances. The part of fortune applies to the Mercury from the 5th with Sagittarius on the ascendant. It is possible that the foreigner and the homogeny can be described by misplaced loyalty to the motherland, which would be your 5th house attachments, of Russia. White Russians would certainly pass as both homogenous to the typical Tennessee population and simultaneously remain foreigners. Mars in the 4th cusp describes the explosion. Now, it is separating from Pluto and Capricorn, but only by minutes. Luckily, there are no further aspects for Mars after this, so this may be an isolated and contained incident that will not be repeated by this group of people. And I believe this is a group of people, not a single individual. Neptune in the 3rd house in rulership would also make the actors easy to blend in with their environment. Again, homogeneous appearances. There's nothing unusual about their appearance. They're going to blend in with everybody else around them. The tight T-square to the nodes, all in dual-bodied signs, again indicates dual identities and or multiple people involved, or both. So now the question becomes, will they be found? While Sun and Mars are in mutual reception by exaltation in this chart, it indicates a tremendous amount of assistance and protection from someone in a position of authority. These are two separate parties that are working hand in glove with each other to make this event successful. The training required here to accomplish this is suggested to be field military, so that's your Mars and Aries, and partnering with management / execution of the situation / circumstances from someone at an executive level or having access to executive level tactical data, which would be your Sun in Capricorn here. The ascendant at 27 Sagittarius takes a while to change signs and then connect to that Sun in Capricorn with its associated aspects. There's a good chance these individuals will not be found quickly or even soon. It will be interesting to see how this plays out and what we learn about all this later. So let's keep an eye on developments. Now, I posted this morning about 10 a.m., I believe it was. And since then, what we have also gotten is because this is obviously ongoing news, right? We have gotten, let me get that out of the way. A Twitter feed in the news, a Twitter post from the police department. All right, need you out of the way, darling. So here's the Twitter post that I just saw. Breaking, this is the RV that exploded on 2nd Avenue North this morning. It arrived on 2nd Avenue at 1:22 a.m. Have you seen this vehicle in our area, or do you have information about it? So now, looking at that chart, so we set up the chart for when the RV was identified at the location before it exploded, right? So with this chart, I've got all my scribbling on here. Let me get rid of all of this stuff here. There it is. We have 23 Libra rising, moon in your, and this, remember, this is when the RV showed up at the location before the explosion. All right, so I'm not going to get too much into breaking this chart apart because there's just a lot here, and I want to kind of get through this quickly. So here's what I would say looking at this chart. With this particular chart, and this surprised me, so I'm not sure that I'm even right about this, but my first impression of this, looking at this chart, is that there's a woman involved in this. That was completely unexpected, and I'm still not sure I believe that, but because that's not typical for women, but that's not to say that women aren't capable of being involved in these types of activities. But there's apparently, if I'm reading this correctly, there's a woman involved in this. There are, again, multiple people involved, and I'm counting up to 5 people. So there are at least 5 people that were involved in this operation. There's one of them is a woman. There is one older man and one younger man who were in the vehicle, and a driver. So there were at least 3 people in one vehicle, or in 2 vehicles that became one vehicle. There's also a what is the word I'm looking for? They have expertise in bomb making, right? Which obviously you'd need to have to do something like this. But there's one person in particular is the bomb expert. And there's another person more closely aligned or affiliated with him or her, could be a her, most likely him though, who is the muscle or the enforcer, right? And also a younger man, definitely and most likely of the military history. One of the people involved is a sportsman or a hunter, which in Tennessee is not that surprising. We shouldn't be, that's not a complicated or unexpected call. A lot of people down in the South and certainly out in the country are hunters. But this person has strong hunting affiliations. Also, I would look for possibility of prison time in their history. So they've done some time in and out of criminal court. I would also look for decorative tattoos, most likely on the calf or the leg. And this was a setup. This was, as I suspected when I first heard it this morning, this was intended to make it look like other people are, you know, attacking Christmas or whatever the weirdo logic that is. So they're literally trying to set up a situation to make it look like other people are doing this to attack the homogenous group in power, which would be whoever these people look like. So if they're, I don't know, if they're hairy albino pygmy midgets, then they're setting this explosion up to look like it's an attack on Christmas and albino pygmy hairy midgets. So whoever these people look like or resemble the most, or most homogenous with as a group, that's who they're trying to make look like the victims of this explosion, when in actuality they are their own domestic terrorists here. What I'm also seeing is it looks like the vehicle may have been traveling east by northeast, but everybody would have split up in at least 3 different directions. So the gentleman who's got the military background, or who's the muscle, the enforcer, would have headed off in a westerly direction, probably by himself. The older man and the younger man would have been there on scene as a pair, so they would have been together. And I don't know if this is a father-son thing, or I don't know what that's about. Maybe they're a couple of incels, right? Take the red pill. See what happens to these people. Anyway, they together would have paired off and gone in a different direction. And it looks like they may have headed in a north by northeast direction, which leaves us with the person we think may be the woman, and or the person, the I don't know what the word is when you're a bomb detonation explosives expert, right? And they may have headed off in a south by east direction. So they literally, if I'm reading this correctly, they've all split up and gone off in at least three different directions. And the weakest link in this chain is going to be, maybe a different color here. It's going to be this guy. So if they get caught or they get found, it's going to be, no, hold on. No. Let me back up a second. This character, the one with the military background, the one who's the muscle, the enforcer, right here, there's a square to that Pluto down on the 4th house. He may be dead before this is over, and that may be his unexpected appearance as a dead man, may be the thing that unlocks this and actually leads them to the other people. But whoever this guy is, I don't see him being around much longer. And it's this one. It's either the woman. I think there's a woman in here. I think there's a woman involved in the situation, and she is going to be the one that spills the beans, and finally, tells people what's going on and where to find folks. And that's going to be that. But with this right here, we've got maybe a day, 24 hours. They're literally not going to get that far before this one becomes the big, bat signal in the sky that points to the direction law enforcement needs to go to figure out who these people are and what they're doing. That doesn't mean that law enforcement is going to be able to find everybody else, with a snap of a finger. But any clues or directional indicators we're looking for should be coming in the next 24 hours, and it's going to be a result of something with this character, and or his cough cough untimely demise. So I suspect that this will come to closure. We will find out what's going on and come to closure with this in, let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 days or 8 weeks. So 8 days from now is going to be, oh God. Help me out here. I'm the only astrologer I know that can't count, right? 7, 8. January 2nd. Hey now. So that's 8 days or 8 weeks, which is obviously going to take us out a couple of months. Now, what's interesting, for those of you guys who are just tuned into the channel, so this is kind of interesting. this date right here, January 2nd, right? One of the things that we noted, and I think this is fascinating, one of the things that we noted in the December horoscope, or it was the 23 Sagittarius eclipse horoscope, it was either the 23 Sag eclipse video or the December video. We talked about dates to watch, and January 3rd was one of those days. So, and remember, with the dates to watch, we always give ourselves about 24 hours on one side or the other, and this is going to put us right there. The other thing about this particular date, January 2nd, is that Trump is getting hit with these dates. I believe his is also going to be January 3rd or 4th. So January 3rd is the date to watch. But these characters, looks like this is going to pop off on January 2nd. So let's watch that date and see what happens as it involves this. On January 3rd or 4th, Trump something is popping off for him around that day also. So it could be that January 3rd or January 2nd through 4th, right? January 2nd through 4th, 2020, brings all of this to climax or culmination and connects them together. That would be rather unsavory. So we'll see. Now, remember, this is pure speculation. We don't know. I'm literally just kind of meandering through the chart, thinking out loud. So let's keep an eye on this and see how much of this is what the chart is telling us and how much of this isn't. Should be interesting. And I just wanted to finish this video with a little thing, right? So I don't do a lot with Trump's chart because the man sickens me. He just sickens me. I did a long chart analysis for him in 2016 at the beginning of his presidency, and he has not failed to deliver exactly what I saw on the chart, and none of it was good. None of it was good, and he is exactly what I thought he would be. Unfortunately, at the time I did not know that Patreon does not archive data. So all the written analysis of his chart I had done originally back in 2016 that we've all watched play out exactly as I described it, unfortunately also disappeared too, right? In any event, he literally sickens me, and I don't like to give him any more attention than I absolutely have to, which is why you're not seeing a lot of his chart work and all this stuff here. So here's what I will say, and I will stand by this always, forever. I honestly believe that man is 0 to 1 degree Virgo rising. He is not Leo rising. And with that said, that means that his chart ruler is Mercury, not the sun. Now, if this is in fact true, and because of the way the aspects have played out, it's been very difficult to separate these things to figure out which one's which, right? So that the eclipse that we had at 23 Sagittarius is absolutely pulling in his sun moon, his full moon in his personal chart across the 4th and 10th house. And his leadership and his reputation and his future and his identity, all these things are definitely getting hammered left, right, and center. And he has reached the end. He's reached the end. This is the end. Now, what's important, and the reason I'm putting this here, is note that at the end of this month, at the end of December 30th, we have an eclipse occurring at 8 degrees 59 minutes or something like 9 degrees Cancer. That 9 degrees Cancer will be conjunct the chart ruler for Donald Trump if he is in fact Virgo rising. And if that is the case, we should see some significant events occurring December 30th or as a result of the December 30th eclipse. Now, with that said, the other date to watch for Trump specifically and this December eclipse, which I believe will be on his chart ruler of Mercury, not the sun, because he's Virgo rising, will be played out the last stage of this eclipse cycle as it affects him, and his karmic wheel with this lifetime will kick off January 14th, 6 days before the inauguration. So We'll see. And that's all I'm good. I wanted to do a video about Trump for you guys because I know it would have been very popular. But I can't. I just can't. Jesus. So that's all I got for that, because that's as much as I want to look at them. All right. So anyway, back to the Nashville chart. Let's watch and see how this plays out.